Hi, everyone. Welcome back to Mama Genius Hub podcast. I'm finally in my new office. I don't even know if I said that was coming, but here we are, working on the background and everything. But we have Suzanne here today because, we're really going to be talking about that clarity and find that overwhelm and how do we do that as a busy mom, because, it does get too much sometimes. So Suzanne's going to help us with all that today, and we'll be jumping in just a moment. Welcome to Mama Genius Hub podcast, where we support moms with big dreams, from entrepreneurship to personal aspirations. I'm your host, Michelle Kaiser, and I'm here to help you unlock your potential in all areas of life. Join us as we explore strategies for thriving in motherhood while pursuing the dreams, the key to actually unlocking your genius. Subscribe now and embark on a journey to realize your fullest potential. And we got Suzanne here. You got to listen to this about. After serving 2 combat tours as a Marine Corps officer, Suzanne experienced a profound spiritual awakening that transformed her life. Now, as an energy priestess and embodied consciousness guide, she helps others navigate their own spiritual journeys. As the co-founder of the House of Embodied Metamorphosis, she leads transformative retreats and coaching programs using the Metamorphosis Method, that we're going to dig into that today, and sacred plant medicines to guide personal awakening and healing. Welcome to the stage, Suzanne. We're so happy to have you today.
Hi, Michelle. It's such a pleasure to be here with you.
I'm so excited to jump into this idea of metamorphosis. So I just always have to start with you have the Marine Corps and you have this, what was that awakening? What really started your why behind doing all of this?
Well, it's such a big question because there are so many ways that we can express ourselves as humans in this world, right?
No, there's just one direct right way, right? That's it.
And I think that's like, that encapsulates the feminine in so many ways, right? Because she's like, I could be this, I could be this, I could be a mother, I could be,
the squirrel brain of the feminine.
Right, exactly. So what led me on my journey to found Metamorphosis was really recognizing that the only constant in my life was change. Period. And it kept happening. And I'm not sure I've even got the total, like when they say like she understood the assignment, I'm almost there. I'm almost at understanding the full assignment of humaning. But essentially I started off my life following in the footsteps of others and kind of looking at their paths to guide me. And I externalized a lot of my value, like a lot of us, right? Where you look at someone else to give you the template for being you. And that led me into the military because my father was in the Marine Corps. And that ultimately led me on a journey of recognizing that I was not really, it's not that I wasn't supposed to be there, but I felt deeply out of place. And I recognized very quickly that I needed to change almost everything that I had known from the time of growing up as a little girl on the organic blueberry farm in Georgia to, going to working at Facebook and being in the tech industry. I recognized that I had to completely deconstruct all of it and then start over again. And the only way to do that was to transform completely.
I love that so much. And I just want everyone to take a breath on that, because that's big. And I mean, when you make that realization of, I want to dive into the how of that in a moment, but I like that idea, that concept of, you said, looking for that template for you from someone else. I think a lot of us do that so much, where we're like looking for the blueprint on how to do this or that. And really there's only one way to figure out that template. And it's the hardest way, which I think is what led you to figure out. I didn't miss on there that you work for Facebook too. That intrigues me. I get curious.
That was another version of Susanna that you haven't met yet.
I was like, squirrel brain. I love that we talk about the feminine, because I've been trying to dive into that more and more, and the creativity of all that it brings. So I want to focus on this word transformation, and have everyone just take a deep breath into that, because it does. Well, let's just take a breath. Because that can really just bring that overwhelm as you hear the word and say, oh my gosh, I have so much to do. So I'd like you to help break that down. Of course, keep in mind, as we talked before, busy mom, keeping 15 minutes in time, but like, I'm just going to throw that out to you. Where do we start?
Yeah. Well, I think that the overwhelm absolutely comes when you feel that sense of transformation happening in your life. When you're like, oh my gosh, and this is something that, maybe we'll talk about soon, but the initiation into motherhood was one of the most overwhelming experiences I think I've ever been through. And before that, I would just feel grateful that I was prepared, because going from the military into the corporate world and then into being in like health, wellness, transformation, psychedelics, like those are massive transformations. And if you try to bite,
you went from like really regiment to semi-regiment to like no regiment. Like you got to figure it out.
well, what's funny is there are a lot of overlaps between the warrior lifestyle and the priestess lifestyle. I mean, there's very much like a discipline to both. It's just a different kind. And the way that the way that the authority happens is it basically goes from the outside to the inside. And so as I started out by externalizing my value and who I was and my template for who I was going to be, I slowly but surely took on the process of transforming into an inner authority. And that inner authority process absolutely was deeply overwhelming. And the only way to do it is in little bite-sized pieces.
That is so true. And I think that you put it like right on the nail right there, because it's easier when some of us dictate, like the military. A lot of people like, here's a routine. This is what you need to do every day. But when you went on the other end, is like, we still need the discipline, but it has to be internalized, developed. And that becomes the tricky part of I think where you really put the nail on the head of that transformation, because that's when you're living in your true authenticity and in yourself. And we're going to dive into that in just a minute. Attention mompreneurs. Do you feel like you're constantly juggling the responsibilities without a moment to yourself? It's time to pause and reflect with our Mama Genius quiz. Tailored for busy mamas like you, this quiz will help you identify what's blocking your path and inspire you to harness your unique strengths, transform how you manage life and business, find your rhythm, and ignite your joy. Visit mamageniushub.com today to discover your Mama Genius. And that's mamageniushub.com. And let's just dive straight into that, because that's just an amazing idea of like, how do we start with that internal blueprint? I mean, because obviously it's so much easier. Like you went like from day to day being told what to do to like corporate of semi telling it. Now we're like internalizing all that. So take it away.
Yeah. I describe the process of awakening in 4 stages. And the first stage is resistance. And that's the most uncomfortable stage. Actually, they're all uncomfortable until you get to the last one. But this first one is this process of recognizing that what's happening around you does not work. It is not, it is harming you in some way. It's creating discomfort in your world and your life. Often women especially develop things like autoimmune diseases, chronic pain. For me, I went through an entire year of urinary tract infections, and I had to go through a lot of pelvic therapy to start healing my physical body. And it basically was like, this world that you're living in, this life that you're living in, this is not you. You are not authentically expressing who you are. And so that is that first stage. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I love, and I even put it in similar terms a lot of times when I like, for me, it was like, doing the dishes and then you just start crying going, is this it? And I feel like that like simplifies, but then it turns into, if you don't start to listen to the little ones like that, then you're like you said, it turns into your body turning against you because of what's surrounding you.
Yeah, and it really depends on like your pain threshold, which we know women have an incredible pain threshold.
I mean, we get perfect,
like unbelievable amounts of pain threshold that I have a new appreciation for as a new mom. But the process of recognizing that you are experiencing resistance often takes it, like it starts out as a little poke, and then it's a little more of a poke, and then it's like a stab, and then it's like, and then suddenly your body or something, whether it be emotional or physical, begins to cause intense resistance in your world. And that was the stage where I discovered, and I would say my first transformation tool is, and this is the most simple one. If people are like, if there was any one thing that you would tell people to do, what would you do? And I'm like, belly breathe. Simple as that. Breathe into your belly. And I just learned a little mantra that is actually incredibly even more helpful to this, which is first step, surrender the weight of your body, not relax your body. Surrender the weight of your body and really tune into those words. And then the second step of that is release control of the breath. And what happens when you release control of the breath is you start to breathe deeper and slower, because most of us are breathing really shallowly because we're controlling the breath. That's actually our mind controlling the breath versus our body controlling the breath. Because when the body controls the breath, we breathe deep into the belly.
Well, if you look at the kids or babies, you see it. And the best way, and it's funny, I love your mantra though, because I feel like that's something I've been told I need to work on as well. But like those two steps just really open something up for me. But for those of you listening or thinking, is when you can feel your chest going up and down, that's when you're stuck in the chest breathing. And so like, it just really you need to feel your belly going in and out to really know that. And just sometimes knowing that physical part helps you get into the belly breathing a little bit more too.
Absolutely. That practice right there, just dropping everything down and into the belly, was by far the most transformative tool that I have used for the last, 10 years, I would say, that got me to where I am today. So if you do nothing else, just do that. That's it. Yeah.
So you said resistance was the first, or what's next?
Yeah, the second is so once I went through the period of my whole body basically shutting down, especially focused on my like womb and my sacral energy center, I realized that I had to just start to like surrender. I had to surrender into the process of like, oh man, okay, I'm just surrendering to the wisdom of my body and knowing that maybe I have to stop. And I started, as I was doing those belly breathing practices, I came to a moment where my body said, you have to leave the corporate world. This is not the place for you. And that also happened when I was in the military. It was like very clearly, get out and go do something different. And then I, went to the corporate world, a lot of similarities with the military. And then it was like, you got to get out of here too. This is not your calling. And the surrender process required me to start clearing my mind. And so while I know that that the 15-minute practices are super powerful, especially for moms, this one did take practices that were a little bit longer. The two practices that I used during that period of time where I was just surrendering to what was like, okay, universe, like, I don't know where I'm going next. What do I do? Was meditation, which you absolutely can do for 10, 15 minutes at a time. But I do find that 20 to 40-minute meditations tend to be the most effective eventually once you get up there. And then breath work, and not like the belly breathing, but more the holotropic breath work and things like that, because that one is going to go right, and you're going to move the energy, and you can do this in 15-minute increments and get some really powerful things from it. But that's where you're going to start to access your anger and your rage. And as a woman and as a womb holder in this world, all of us carry sacred rage because we are a little mad at some of the ways that women have been treated over the last, several thousand years. So those methods started to activate some of my anger in my body. All those emotions that I was told weren't ladylike or weren't allowed. And they helped me surrender to them, essentially.
Okay, well, I have to tell you that my word of the year is surrender.
I am wearing this necklace right here is surrender in Sanskrit.
Oh,
Right there with you, sis.
I might have to get that one.
You need to get one of these. Yeah, you need to get one.
What I was going to say also is I've been working with Dale Allen. She did in the book In Our Right Mind, and I never really thought about this, but when the spoken words start being transcribed into books, one of the things missing was imagery. And the feminine comes out through imagery. And so we think back to the thousands of, as soon as the women start to be erased, was a lot when the masculine came out with this idea of putting the word down that puts us really into that masculine mind. And that is when we went into this masculine driven society. But as we start to really focus in on imagery and things, helps to bring back and getting into our body. And so I love that you brought in the breath work and the meditation to help us really get back into our bodies and really slow down the minds and get back into that creative right side, which really brings out the feminine.
1000%. I mean, that's really what we're doing as we're going through this process. If you are a female bodied individual and you identify that way, then your most authentic self is identified with feminine creativity.
Yes.
Right. And me being in the military and then going into the corporate world, like the most masculine environments I could have put myself in. And while they taught me a lot of things like discipline and structure, and they helped me work on building my masculine as a woman, they were not the most authentic expressions of me. So I had to surrender back into the creative, like abundant, unconditional space of the feminine. And the only way to do that is to go in.
I love that. Yeah. Well, then so we got
stage 3.
I was just going to recap because we have the why resistance is stage 1. Then we get into the surrendering. Yeah. Now, what is stage 3?
Trust.
Ooh. Right when you say that word, it's like,
I know. Dun, dun, dun.
And you know, what's funny? It's almost like that obvious feeling of, yeah, like I knew that was coming at the same time. I was like, oh, yeah.
Yeah. It's the hardest one, I find. It's taken years, I think, to come into a new layer of trust. And really, it's trust for ourselves. Everything that we engage in, this whole concept of, I can't trust you because you did XYZ. Nope. Nope. It doesn't matter what another human does. It is all about your own trust for yourself. Because if you trust yourself, you trust yourself to only put yourself in situations and in relationships that are trustworthy. You trust the people around you because you know you have intentionally attracted them to you. You create your own reality, essentially. And that is a very challenging realization to come into. And I also find that trust basically is the shifting. It's a little bit of a shifting. And I say this from the perspective of a warrioress, from protecting myself with armor in the sort of like physical world or on my body, to knowing that I am divinely and internally protected just by being. So I don't have to protect myself. I have a much, much bigger, greater thing that is protecting me all the time.
Wow. But it's so true with that concept of trust and just that concept saying I am enough and I am worthy. I feel like those are the two. Once we can feel those two affirmations and really breathe into them and believe them, which I'm not saying.
Yes.
I don't even know if I'm quite there yet either, but but we're in this constant journey of trying to work towards that internal trust. And the more we start to focus on that, the more we start to see that we are putting ourselves in situations of that nature. And honestly, I think that's one of the things that comes out of this is as you start transforming, you start realizing the people who
are serving you, right?
Yeah.
And are causing you to self-betray, right? And really trust or lack of trust is a result of consistent self-betrayal. And that comes up a lot in the mother realm because of the martyr energy, right? We
Oh,
have that I have to do it all myself, and we get that feeling of the burden of it's all on my shoulders, when in fact I can absolutely choose at any moment to be like, I'm gonna go take a nap.
exactly. I'm going to take care of me right now.
Right.
But I mean, that's kind of what we've always been saying is being that role model for your kids, because
Mhm.
if you're in martyrdom, giving up your dreams,
Yes.
then I always like to say, especially for the daughters, because then you're putting your daughters into that place as soon as they become a mom to do what you just did.
Yes.
And that's that perpetual cycle of, I think, where that even that anger perpetuates from, that you were talking about earlier, that generational anger
Yep.
coming from that margin cycle that we as moms right now are in the place to break that
1000%.
cycle by
Yes.
every small choice that we make that becomes that role model for our kids. Because I don't want my daughters to be resentful of their kids, or resentful or in the same thing. I have to give my own dreams, because then no one's ever going to fulfill their own dreams.
That's so beautiful. That's so beautiful. It is, for me as a mother, it is about legacy, and it is about other in a lot of ways. But in order to be able to serve the legacy and the other, I have to start with learning to serve myself. And that is the integrity of coming back to what I say, what I do, and what I think are all in alignment. So it's getting out of any hiding of yourself. And this phase is where I would say there are three transformation tools here. One of them, I would like to come up with like a quick way, but I don't know if it's as quick. The other two are more simple. So the first one is shadow work. You
Mm.
got to do some shadow work here to develop trust for yourself. And really, those involve, I personally like internal family systems. So with that in mind, actually, there is a great tool that I used during this phase, which I would actually say, this is a cycle, by the way. It continues. You go.
We're never quite, I mean, it's a journey, right?
Right. Exactly. It's like I'm not just only in the trust. I'm in the trust phase again now, and I was in the trust phase back in 2020 as well. Usually these kind of 4-year cycles. But the best shadow work technique that I like, that's actually in one of our courses that we are launching very soon, is called the inner child shower exercise. And when I found myself having a meltdown, whether it was related to feeling overburdened or overworked or just too much, the total overwhelm, and I had no clarity because my body was like, right, I tend toward anxiety. So I tend to hyper-regulate. Some people tend to hypo-regulate into more depressive tendencies. I got in the shower. I'd take my clothes off because it's a shower. And I would be in the shower, you know, doing my normal kind of shower routine. And I would call my inner child or my inner critic, whichever one I felt most aligned with at that time. And I would say, hey, and I would ask them 5 whys. I would say, hey, what's going on? What's happening in your world? And that little being, and then I'd talk to myself, like some people will be like, she cray. And I'm like, great, I am totally cray. And it works. And I would say, why are you upset? And they would respond with, well, if, I didn't get that client, so I'm going to not have money, blah, 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 right? And then I'd say, well, why is that a bad thing? And then I ask again, well, why is that a bad thing? And basically we get to the root cause. And this whole process could easily take less than 15 minutes because you're in the
Yeah.
shower, right? 10 minutes or so. But usually there's going to be some emotion that comes up as you do this exercise. And you're going to start to understand the inner child or the inner critic shadow that is running the show at that moment. And you're going to get to the root cause. Usually mine was my root story of shadow was I am going to die alone on the street and no one's going to love me. That's like my basic, which is a very scary thought for an inner child.
Yeah.
That's like, if that's your real reality of being like, I might actually die on the street alone with no friends and no money and no food.
Yeah.
It's a scary thing. Yeah. So then I had compassion for myself with that.
Well, we're almost out of time actually.
Yeah.
Just throw, can you tell us the fifth?
The other two. Well, yeah. And then I'll tell you the last stage, which is great. So,
just tell us the last stage for now. We'll have to
last stage is play.
Ooh, yes.
Yeah. Because once you're trusting and you trust yourself, you trust your guides, you trust your inner child, you've done all your shadow work. Now all you have to do is show up every day in every moment of life as present as possible. And you are playing, because that's what it's all about.
Well, we will throw in a little bonus at the end of this episode after the outro. Just stay on if you want to hear the next two, but we'll just, for the sake of time, and we'll be back in just a moment. Do you ever feel like your own dreams are fading on you as you focus and keep everything together for your family, or been buried under laundry and school runs and endless to-do lists? They're so deep, you don't even know what they are anymore. The Mama Genius Hub is here to help you uncover that part of you again. Maybe you felt that pull to start a passion project, return to a hobby you once loved, or pursue a career that lights you up, but you're so caught in everyone else's needs that you keep slipping through the cracks. In just 15 minutes a day, our mini courses will help you reconnect with those dreams while finding a new rhythm in motherhood's beautiful, messy life. And best of all, you'll be doing it with a community of moms who truly understand the juggle and the joy. The Mama Genius Hub is a community who've been there and are here to support and inspire each other every step of the way. It's time to rediscover your spark, live in your genius, and inspire your kids by showing them how to follow their own passions. Join the Mama Genius Hub today and start creating space for you again without guilt or doing it solo.
Come to www.connectingmamas.com for more details.
So our final question for you today is, what is a common misconception about motherhood you think holds many moms back from truly stepping into their genius?
I think that there is a constant feeling that there is not enough time.
Yeah.
And there is enough time for everything. If you really prioritize and know exactly what you are here to do in your world and in your life, if you align yourself with your purpose, whether that is motherhood or it's motherhood and something else, there's always enough time. In fact, there is an abundance of time. And you can expand and contract time. We'll talk about that on another one.
I wholeheartedly agree with that, but tell everyone, Suzanne, how they can get hold of you.
Yeah. Well, you can connect with us at our website, metamorphosis.ventures. You can follow me personally on Instagram at Susannah Roses, and our company Instagram is at Embodied Metamorphosis, and we'd love to see you there.
All right. Well, we're going to put you backstage for a moment as we give away 5 takeaways from today. Wow, is all I have to say. I have so many notes right now, as you can see, 2 pages of notes. But for first, I'll just looking at number 1, because the episode was titled Overwhelm. Where does that come from? That comes from we're figuring out that discipline and figuring out what is that invitation of where we're feeling in our life. And when we feel like we're not in the right space or feeling like our authentic self, that is where the overwhelm is going to come from, which then leads us into her fourth process of number 2, which is that process of awakening, of that realization. You're feeling that resistance. You're feeling like, for me, it was washing the dishes and crying. For her, it was realizing what is that threshold of pain, because she went from being in the military to Facebook to finally figuring that out and realizing when is that not feeling authentic, and having that awakening, but like that resistance to like, I can't do this. And in that, she said one of the best things to do, which is takeaway number 3, because I really want to focus on that, because the best takeaway from today is really working on that belly breath, right? And again, let me go through those 2 things. Number 1, surrendering the weight of your body. Keep that in mind, surrendering the weight of your body. And then number 2, release control of that breath. and really feel where is your breath going for when you're in that moment. And then that takes us into takeaway number 4, or actually, sorry, I'm losing track of it, but we got the surrender process, which I guess went with, doesn't matter. Surrender process is next. When we're getting that wisdom of our body to really let go and let the universe guide us into what is that next step. So 2 ways that we can do that is through meditation or that breath work, and getting into holotropic breath work. So you can learn more about that if look those words up, and that will help us get into our feminine energy. And then we get into takeaway number 4, which really is that trust. Trust, not just in general, but trust for ourselves. Because when we start trusting ourselves, we put ourselves in relationships and situations that we can really feel and hone into. And as you start this process of transformation, you can start to see the people that should, I don't like the word should, that are worthy to be in your life and to be part of that. And you start to play with that because you are trusting yourself. And that leads away to takeaway number 5, which is play. Once you're trusting, you start working with that play and really bringing that back into your life, because there is time for all of that. And we're going to bring Suzanne back for her final takeaway.
Great. Oh man, this has been so fun. So I would just say follow your heart ultimately, right?
Mm-hmm.
As you are trusting that you're going to step into a transformation process, you're going to feel the resistance. It's going to hurt. You're going to feel the pain. That's okay. Be present with the process and flow it through. Breathe. Then you got to surrender, right? You have to surrender and let go of what you thought the outcome was going to be, or what you thought the process was going to be, and just be in it and let yourself kind of float for a period of time. And that leads you into trust, because as you surrender, you realize that you can trust yourself. You can trust yourself. You can trust your spirit guides. You can trust the bigger God and energy or essence, universe, whatever you believe in that's bigger than yourself. You can trust it, and you no longer have to protect you.
Mm-hmm.
And then that final stage, you get to play. You get to be present in every single moment and look at your child's face and watch as it lights up, because they are seeing you awaken and come out of overwhelm and into agency and integrity.
I love that. And so if you want the 2 bonus things, stay here for after the outro. We'll see you in a moment. Thank you for joining us in today's episode of the Mama Genius Hub podcast. If you found value in our conversation, please share this episode with another mama who might benefit. Sharing helps us build a supportive community and reach out to more mamas like you. After all, it's more fun when we do motherhood together. Until next time, stay motivated and continue to pursue your dreams as you shine in your genius. So we're moving back to the trust aspect, because that's so hard. And so the first technique that you had given us was that I believe it was shower. You call it something.
The inner child shower exercise, which is really kind of comes from internal family systems, that kind of work. And, you're right. The trust phase is like the most, let's just call it that, right? It is the most. And the second process I mentioned briefly as on that outro, your spirit guides, connecting in with your spirit guides. And that is a process of going inward. So ideally during that surrender process, as you've been meditating or doing some kind of mindfulness and or doing breath work, you've likely connected with some guides or something that is outside of you, that is also not necessarily in this dimension. And to me, this is the awakening of the feminine, right? So connecting with some kind of being that you believe is a protector, even, carry a little angel with you, right? Like a little angel figurine or something along those lines, and know that you can always go to them. And then the last step of trust is to trust your voice. And there are vocal activations that you can do for this. And the way that I have honed that for myself is affirmations and manifestations. And I write them down. I physically write them down in I have like one journal that is dedicated to that. And a great exercise that you can do as a mama, as a busy woman, is you can take post-it notes and write on those post-it notes all the things that you would want your partner, your best friend, like someone who admires you deeply and trusts you and loves you and thinks that you walk on water, and write them on Post-it notes, put them around your mirror. And every single time you brush your teeth, you go to the mirror, you read those and you remind yourself of how amazing you are and how you can be trusted.
On that note, we're going to say goodbye for today, but just remind yourselves, mamas, how amazing you truly are. And if you need a reminder, that's when we come join the community, and we do that for each other, because sometimes we do need the support to do it because we forget. But we know you are amazing. So I want to hear to remind you, and we'll see you all in the next episode. Bye, everyone.